Greetings, everyone. This is the Hipster Snek, and today I thought I would do something a little out of the ordinary because it's like 1,000,000 degrees outside, and I just don't have the energy for much else. But you guys have seemed to be enjoying this Monster Rancher kick I've been on, for which you can thank the Monster Rancher Discord for. They got me playing Monster Farm, Line the Monster Farm, and yeah, no, this was shown to me by Rizia the Seeker, so thank you for taking the time out to share this with me, because you knew straight away this would be up my alley. So, this is a simple Monster Rancher monster tier list. It's very simple. This will not be based on mechanical or competitive viability. This will just be how much I like the monster. And the one thing I did notice is some of these monsters are from Monster Farm Online / Lagoon, which we didn't get in the West. So I'm going to see if my comprehensive Monster Rancher knowledge is good enough to sort out which ones hail from Monster Farm Lagoon. And thus it has its own special tier placement down at the bottom, where I will simply try to sort monsters into it if they are indeed from the now defunct MMO. All right, we're just going to go in order. All right, we're going to start with Abyss. Abyss debuted in Monster Rancher DS and really hasn't appeared since then, but I'll be honest. I like Abyss. I think Abyss is a solid A, which is not a play on its name. That's just how I feel about it. I think the monster designs in Monster Rancher DS are really, really good, and that Monster Rancher DS was just kind of a bad name. Now, I know this one. This one's Antilo. This one is a Monster Farm Lagoon monster. So, yeah. It looks like a Kelby. It looks like a Kelby from Monster Hunter. It's actually kind of hard to talk about those two franchises interchangeably, isn't it? Anyway, next up is Antland. Antland is one of my favorite monsters. S tier, no holds barred. Antlands are super cool. First off, I love like bug themes. Plus, he kind of has like the whole like tokusatsu hero motif to him. I love Antlands so much. This, I don't recognize it, so I'm assuming that's from Monster Farm Lagoon. And it's cute. I like it. It doesn't really... It looks like something from Yokai Watch. Like, it doesn't look like a Monster Rancher monster. At least Antilo. If you put Antilo like next to monsters that debuted in Monster Rancher 1, I don't think it would stand out all that much. This thing stands out like a sore thumb. Anyway, speaking of variances between sequels, we're going to have Ape, the first generation Ape. I don't like Ape. I'll be honest. It's honestly, it's just not that interesting a design. I'm going to plop him down in D rank, and my rationale is he's just an orangutan with a big tail. I don't know why I said that so strangely. He's an orangutan with a really big tail. That's all he is. And like, I get it. Hair is just a rabbit with like clawed feet and boxing gloves. But it still feels like there was more creative liberty taken with hair than there was with Ape. Now, this might change because, to be fair, I have not raised an ape. So, in a future instance, my opinions on this might change. Next is the Ape Escape apes, who only show up in Monster Rancher 4, and I'll be honest, it's kind of a dumb, pointless cameo. Of all the things that Monster Rancher could cross over with, I sort of feel like they can do better. I'm trying to stop scrolling up and down so much. I bet that's kind of disorienting for you guys. I apologize. Next up is Arrowhead, and yes, Arrowhead is awesome. Everything about Arrowhead is super cool. It's like, what happens if you fuse a crab, a lobster, and a scorpion all in one design? And all those things are super cool. So I love Arrowhead. I love his design. I know he's like not necessarily like the best monster, but I love him, and nothing will ever change my mind about that. Next up is Bajarl. Bajarl, I have not raised a Bajarl, so this is going to go mostly off design. Now, here's the thing. I think Bajarl's pretty cool. You know what? I think Bajarl belongs alongside Abyss, because it's a cool motif, making him like this little djinn thing. he just has a neat idea. Like, Bajaro clearly had a lot of thought put into his design. And I think that's super neat. And maybe my opinion on this will change once I raise Bajaro, when I do meet the Bajaro. And I don't know. I think it's neat. And also he has an Ultraman form. So, like, he has that going for him. He was one of the first Ultraman references in Monster Rancher. Next up is Baku. And I don't know. Baku I have mixed feelings on. I think I'm going to plop him in the B rank. Because like he's like this big floppy hippopotamus dog, right? And on the one hand, I think he's kind of endearing. Like he has that kind of like derpy cute thing going on. On the other hand, I don't know, like that's just kind of all he is. He's just this big derpy hippopotamus dog, and that's his thing. Visually he's not very striking, but I think he's interesting enough. You know, he has more creativity placed in him than Ape does. Next up is Beaklon, and Beaklon is a solid A. No regrets on that decision, because beetles are cool. Rhinoceros beetles and stag beetles are cool. Beaklon tends to have really cool designs. It has really fun attacks. I like him. I don't like that he's kind of replaced Worm in recent games, so I'm really happy to see Worm back as of like Line Monster Farm, and I hope that's kind of like the precedence going forward, because I like Worm a lot. We'll get to him. But Beaklon on his own as a standalone monster breed is still really good and really cool. This thing is certainly from Monster Farm Lagoon. It kind of has the same problem as the cat. This looks like a Digimon. This looks like a lot like Pandamon. It looks like some kind of rookie level Digivolution of Pandamon. Like, it doesn't look like a Monster Rancher monster at all. If I were to rank these, Antilo would still be like the best of those designs. All right, and next up is Centaur. Centaur is really interesting because they took the essential elements of the Greek myth and put their own spin on them. Centaur is going into the A rank. He looks cool. He has kind of like that avian snout, but he has kind of like almost like dinosaur features. And the fact that the spear is such a huge part of his motif makes Centaur really cool. Now, to be honest, the first time I raised a Centaur was actually in Line Monster Farm. So he's another candidate for a very early Meet the Monster episode. The one I got was a charity monster from last month's event, as of this recording, which would have been the July event, where you can get a Centaur/Arrowhead. And he was my first 5-star monster, and I actually like the species a lot. So Centaur is good. Centaur is good. This weird little estranged Digimon gets dubious honor of going with his like other Digimon friend here, because like these don't look like Monster Rancher monsters. Like, how would these fuse into other monsters? Nothing about this adds up. Color Pandora. Color Pandora is bad. I do not like Color Pandora. It's a dumb monster. It's a dumb design. I liked it better in Monster Rancher 2 when it's like this weird caterpillar, and the implication seemed to be that the 3 segments were there, but you weren't supposed to talk about it, kind of thing. When they made it into 3 individual little faces, it felt like it lost a certain something and gained a lot of like obligatory moe blob ugh status, which honestly just made me like it a whole lot less, and I didn't like Color Pandora a whole lot to start. Next up is Dino, and Dino's also going in D. It's literally just a Tyrannosaur. Like, there's no imagination here. It feels very lacking. It wants for a design, which I think Zoom kinda gave it, but there does seem to be some debate over which is better. And honestly, I think Zoom is the better design because it seems like there's more imagination. Dino is just a T-Rex. Like, there's not a whole lot else going on. Next up is Disc, and honestly, raising a Disc really raised my opinion of it, but as I'm mostly going on like design and theming, he's going to plop into the C rank. Now, here's my rationale. On its face, artistically, it's kind of a dull design. It's literally just the Saucer Stone emblem. But what I think is really interesting is that's exactly it. You don't expect it. Like, you don't expect to see that design as a monster, and it can surprise you. The fact that its attacks will surprise you with how weird they are. I think the disc has a little more going for it. It's sort of a so dumb that it wraps around to being kind of smart kind of situation here. Just, I don't know. I'm biased because having raised the disc, I like them now. Uh, so yeah, he gets kind of like bumped to C. That's kind of separates him from the D rank here. And this weird little Yokai Watch edition is almost certainly from the MMO. And again, like these four don't look like Monster Rancher monsters. I don't know what to make of them. All right, next is Doodle. Doodle's going to go in the C rank alongside Disc for kind of the same reason. It's that's so dumb that it's smart. Like, it's such a clever idea, right? There was so much energy and so much experimentation, especially in the first Monster Rancher game where anything could go. All right, next up is Dragon. Dragon is just a good design because dragons are just inherently cool. There's nothing else for it. But I will say, Dragon is a tiny bit generic. Dragon is going to go in B rank alongside a Baku. It's just kind of your standard European bipedal dragon. And while that's still good, it's not great, and it's not terribly imaginative. So it's still a good. I think B is a perfectly respectable placement. Still solid. Just Dragon is just that. He's just a dragon. It's not like, say, Centaur, where a lot more fantasy elements were added to add to his appeal. He's just Dragon, and that's exactly what he should be. Next up is Duckin, and I gotta admit, I have a soft spot for Duckin. I think Duckin is very creative. Duckin is very imaginative. A rank. Yeah, I know that's going to make some people mad, but I don't know. It's such a fun monster. Like, it's goofy. It's made out of wood, apparently, and this is just such a bizarre creature with such a bizarre unlock prerequisite, and some of its subbreeds are just so weird. Like Pixie Slash Duckin Mischief is just like a weird, funny design. Like, I don't know. There's just so much going on that I can't help but love it. It's like a lot of thought and a lot of creativity went into it, and it's too weird not to like. Next up is Durahan, and Durahan is just cool. S rank. Now, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but you put Dragon in B. Yeah, I know. Okay, but here's the thing. The Dullahan is not a particularly well-known myth. The fact that they homaged it in the Durahan, gave it a copyright-safe name via English, and made a design that looks good in every single one of its appearances in the franchise is something that not every monster can boast. Monster Rancher 3 Nagos look terrible, for example. But Durahan is super cool. I love this guy. How can you not love this chivalrous knight wielding a blade? His one ghostly eye looking out from his helmet as a reminder that he was a fallen knight. Like, there's nothing cool. There is nothing not cool about a Durahan. Everything about Durahan is super cool. All right, next is Falco. Falco is another Monster Rancher DS design. And Falco, of the Monster Rancher DS trilogy, not trilogy, but trio of new breeds, I'm going to put him in B rank. He's just kind of like this big, beefy burb, which honestly just kind of makes him look like a big Raiden. But it's still a good design. He's very eye-catching. He has this orange and blue thing going on that I like a lot. He looks good. He has that big protector kind of vibe going off. The Egyptian god monsters are all pretty good. So you know what? B rank. B rank is solid. Next up is Gaboo. He's a mud puddle. He's a mud puddle, and he just looks like poo. Okay, I'm gonna say it. He looks like poo. He's poo with a face. D rank. Next up is Galley, and Galley might be one of my favorite monster designs because it's beauty in simplicity. When you first see a Galley, you see a mask and you see a cape. But then, when it thinks you're not looking, you see like this spiritual entity from within the cloak reach out, and you see like a hand or a face manifest. Galley is such an interesting and fascinating design. It's so well done. And then, especially in the PS1 games, where you could see the details on his cape, how Galley with different monster subbreeds will have different patterns on its cape, which really goes to show just how much detail was put into those monsters. This absolutely brilliant design. Galley is awesome. Next up is Garu. I like Garu. Garu is good. A rank. He's like this weird little furry dog monkey thing. He clearly has some like Sun Wukong inspiration there, which is good. I actually like that. But it also kind of does its own thing. He's not bound by the Sun Wukong thing. He's like a wolf. He's like a dog. He's a monkey. He's kind of like a cat. I don't know, just really good, really eye-catching design. You get that kind of like fiery red, blue eyebrow thing going on here. Just solid stuff. Like it. Ghost. I do not like Ghost. Ghost is going in the C rank. Because I will say, Ghost has personality. Ghost has more thought put into it than Ape. But it's this little specter guy with the cane and a hat, and there's just not a lot happening with him. I don't know. Not impressive. Stupid unlocked prereq, especially in Monster Rancher 1. The game should not reward the player for playing poorly or playing inconsistently. And Ghost, actually, that's something that Ghost and Doodle will share in kind, so that's a thing. Next up is apparently Gitan or Gitan D rank. Worst design of them all. It's one of my least favorite monsters. I just don't like it. It's the Diet Coke of Jokers. It's like, I'm an evil monster with a little demon trident. Come on. Like, Japan, how many times are we going to retread the harmless, innocent little devil thing? Like, come on. Like, Akira Toriyama did something with a character like that. There was Kid Dracula that did basically the same thing. It's not endearing. It's just kind of dumb. And, like, his physiology makes no sense. Like, are those spikes on his ears? Are those little nubs supposed to be his legs? Like, it looks like an estranged plush doll. It doesn't look like a Monster Rancher monster. It's just some generic cartoon devil that doesn't fill a niche to call its own, because if you want something edgy, that's what Joker is for. If you want something funny and cartoony, there's lots of options for funny and cartoony, especially in the wacky world of speed, intelligence, skill monsters. D rank. If there was a rank below... No. You know what needs to happen? Here's what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Make it purple, because everything about Gitan is purple. There. There. That is what you get. That is what you get for being the worst of all monsters. I hate it. I hate it so much. What? Great. I love it when it does that. Okay. That'll work. Next up is this abomination, which definitely is a Monster Farm Lagoon design. I don't know what to make of it. I think it's more interesting than the previous 4 on this tier. It certainly draws attention to itself. But, like, what am I looking at? Is it a jellyfish? I don't know. Looking at it makes me uncomfortable. Alright, next up is Golem. And Golem is a weird thing when you're talking about design, because his Monster Rancher 1 design is completely different from all the others, because it's supposed to be based off Giant Robo. C rank. Golem has a personality to call his own. I will not take that from him. But it's not much of one. His Monster Rancher 1 and the design they ultimately use in the anime being based off Giant Robo at least kind of gave him a very expressive, like, Egyptian motif in the face. And the broader shoulders, I think, made him look more visually interesting. The fact that from Monster Rancher 2 going forward, he's just kind of a generic rock man. I mean, generic rock man is still interesting to look at, but I don't know. There's just not a whole lot going on in that design. All right, next up is hair. And I like hair a good deal. B rank. Hair has a good mix of natural and fantasy elements. And, you know, they kind of give him the boxer theme with the large, rounded hands, but they give him kind of this sleek look with a small head and long ears, and, like, the claws on his feet give him this wild appearance. Like, it's a really good design while sticking really close to your source material. Good stuff. I like it. Next up is Hinger, and Hingers are cool. Hingers are definitely S-rank monsters. Hingers are cool war robots, and they're way taller than you might expect, especially given they can compact themselves down into, like, this weird little, like, beetle floating robot thing that looks like Dr. Eggman made. Good stuff. Hopper. D rank. It's literally just a ring-tailed lemur. Like, it's not interesting at all. There's no fantasy appeal here. That's literally just what a ring-tailed lemur basically looks like in real life, but with big feet. And I don't like it. And you have to raise one if you want to unlock all the monsters, because it's a mandatory step for Undine and Zilla. Anyway, first off is Original Gel. Original Gel is a B rank, because there was a lot of thought put into it. He has that water transparency thing going on. And, you know, I thought it was really cool because, like, he has a solid red core from which all the rest of the body kind of emerges like an amoeba. And so you have, like, this part's solid, this part's water thing going on. And then his body shapeshifts. He turns into a star when he's happy. There's Jellicopter and like all this other weird, wacky stuff he can do. Like, it's a really clever design. It's a less is more design that works better than, say, Ghost or Golem. Monster Rancher 3 Gel sucks and has none of that. It is a bland, textureless cyan egg that has no personality to speak of, and because the cell shading was so bad, you can't see the core 99% of the time. I don't like it. Jill. Jill is basically a Bigfoot, but I think that's kind of cool. C rank. There's a lot to say about Jill, because it has a less is more design. It does. And I like its mustache. But it's also just kind of this generic Yeti monster whose body type is ostensibly the same as a couple others already on this chart and a few more to go. He doesn't have a spot in the game to call his own. And while I like him, I have to admit, there's just not a lot happening here. Next up is Joker, and Joker is cool. I said it. A-rank design. Easy. Jokers, whether you're talking about their PS1 era, where they were more clown killer, or Monster Rancher 4, where they were, like, more edgelord and had, like, the Phantom mask. Originally, I think they were kind of made as a more thematically obvious counterpart to Galley, which I think they serve that role really well. Monster Rancher Advance 2 goes into that a little bit, funny enough. It has a cool, striking design. It has, like, the edgy, like, you know, I am become death motif. There's a lot to be said for Joker's design, regardless as to whether you prefer the old or new. Now, the only reason he's not an S-rank design is it does feel a lot like he's inverted Galley. Like, Monel is supposed to be Galley's thematic opposite, but Joker clearly takes more inspiration. Galley came first, and Joker was kind of the deviant art OC donut steel version of Galley. Not that he isn't cool. Like I said, he is. I said that there. I said it. Joker is cool. Okay, you guys in the comments don't need to give me a hard time about this. He is cool. All right, so next up is our first line Monster Farm monster, which I believe is Kawazumo, I think is how you're supposed to say it. I'm torn. I think he could easily fit in B or C rank very well. You know what? I'm going to go with B. Now, here's my thing. I actually considered a fan monster design kind of similar to what they ultimately settled on for Kawazumo, but I would have gone with a giant sumo turtle. I think the shell would have made it more stand out and have its specific stat loadout a bit more obvious. But I like what they did with it. They took a simple idea, sumo wrestler, gave it a natural theme, which is to say a frog, and they gave it a design that makes sense. I think of the line Monster Farm monsters, Kawazumo is the one that's closest to a true original generation Monster Rancher design. There's a lot to be said for it, even if some of its subbreeds look really, really weird. Pixie slash Kawazumo looks like some kind of weird, like, AU version of Suya from My Hero Academia. Anyway, this little rock squirrel thing is definitely a Lagoon design. But honestly, I like it. If they canonize this guy and Antilla over there, like, I'd be okay with that. These are pretty good. I like these two. These five in the middle, not so much. All right, next up is QB. QB is yet another waifu breed that doesn't serve any particular niche. C rank. QB is basically just Pixie again, and honestly, she doesn't bring anything mechanically to the table that Pixie doesn't already. You could have just made QB a Pixie subtype, and it would have worked just as well. I only have one in my particular file, which is the QB slash Tiger, who I affectionately named Yeffa Lockhart. That's all it is. It's just another squishy wizard waifu breed, and there's nothing all that interesting about her. So, C rank. Next up is this buffalo-looking guy, who honestly has a pretty decent design. He's a Lagoon design, definitely, and they had a thing for, like, antelope or something. I kind of like him, though. No, we'll sort out the tiers later. Right now, we're just going to get everyone on the board. Next one is also a Lagoon design. I don't... It looks like a Pokemon. Like, it doesn't look like a Monster Rancher monster. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. It's just a weird design. Anyway, next up is Lesion. I like Lesion a lot. A-rank design. It takes a simple... It does what Dino never could, honestly. It takes a simple concept, which is to say a plesiosaur, gives it its own design, gives it a good color contrast, and you look at it, you know immediately what it is. It's this big aquatic monster. It is an unambiguously aquatic monster, which apart from like Arrowhead and Unbeam, there haven't been all that many. It's a cool design. I like Lesions a lot. So, A-rank. Solid. Next up is one of the most underrated monsters of all time, Modillo. I'm going to say B-rank design. Here's why. Modillo reflects the animal he's supposed to be, obviously an armadillo, and they just took that idea and they roll with it. They give him the big, cumbersome shell, the hard, flat head. He kind of has like the head of an ankylosaur. They give him like these forearm covers and the large feet. Like, it's a good design. Again, it's like what Hare did. You take a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of nature, bam. Beautiful design. Sorely underrated monster. Needs to make a comeback. B rank. Next up is Magic, and honestly, Magic does not have that interesting of a design. He's basically supposed to be like a djinn or some kind of spirit. Monster Rancher 1 explains that he hides in the form of a galley or a monal, which are said to contain secret spirits within. And he also got the Jinx treatment, and they made him purple in the DX re-release. I kind of like Magic, just because it is striking, and if you wanted a husbando species, there you go. But honestly, there's just not a lot happening. He's just a big, buff dude with the shoulders of Tien from Dragon Ball. It's just like, there's not a lot to say for him. He's just not that striking a design, and being replaced by Bajral was probably the best thing they could have done for him. Next up is this monster hunter-looking thing. So it looks like some kind of elephant or rhinoceros or maybe a boar. Honestly, the longer I look at it, the more I kind of like it. I would be okay with that design becoming canon. That's pretty good, actually. All right, next is the only Evo exclusive. Only Evo exclusive, Maya. And honestly, Maya is such an interesting design. I'm actually going to go A rank. It has a cat's body, but it has a really striking green-yellow color palette that not too many other monsters share. It also has like these aurora wings, which give it this really flowy design. It's kind of like the scarf in a Mega Man X Command Mission. I think Maya probably got dealt a bum hand because Evo was just a terrible game. But Maya is a good design. It's really striking, and I'm kind of sad it never got to come back. So, yeah, I like it. I like Maya, and Maya's a huge part of my strategy whenever I play through that game. So, like, yeah, I like Maya a lot. All right, next up is Metalner. You know what? Metalner gets to go to the A rank as well. And here's the thing: he kind of has this really interesting design. His body is clearly supposed to be a flying saucer UFO thing. They give him the big ears and the antenna and the Ultraman eyes and the little tentacle arms and legs to give him that. It's like a something out of a sci-fi pulp novel from the 50s and 60s. It's the exact thing that you would imagine when you think of it's an alien. And you know what? I like that design a lot. I think Hinger is a little more striking because Hinger has that like retro tech kind of motif going for him. Metalner is still really, really cool. And like some of its subbreeds, they do little touches. Like I think Loveseeker has like a different shaped ears and stuff like that. But there's not a whole lot of like expression. It doesn't emote. It's not like Duckin, where it constantly looks like it's in distress. It has the Ultraman eyes, so it's just kind of its face is a bit of a blank. Good design though. All right, next up is Mew. I don't like Mew. D rank. It's a plush doll. Yay, that's so clever and original, and this monster doesn't suck at all. Yeah, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. I just don't. It's generic. It doesn't bring anything that other cute monsters haven't already done. Speaking of cute monsters, next is Mochi. Mochi is also a D rank. Mochi is one of my least favorite monsters, only stolen from the position because G-Tan or Jai-Tan or Gi-Tan sucks just that much more. Yeah, I don't like it. It looks like what happened if an armadillo and a penguin and the thing of like bubble tape had a really, really bad bender and was the ultimate result. All right, next up is Mach. Mach, C rank. They took a very simple idea. It's a tree stump, but they give it like the roots with like feet. There's little arm branches and has this face in the middle. And maybe it's my soft spot for Mach Ruji and Monster Rancher 4. I don't know. It's interesting. It's striking. You know, it's got something there. But once again, it's not super creative. It's the Jill and Disc thing where it's like it's creative, but it's not that creative. Next up is Mogi. Mogi might be one of the weirdest monsters I've ever seen, but I like Mogi. It has like a DJ motif. Like it has the huge paws because it's supposed to be like scratching records. It's so weird. Like, what is it? It's a dog. It's a mole. It has a seashell on its head that's also a drill. I don't know what this monster is supposed to be, but I love him. I raised one in Monster Rancher 4, and I absolutely, it was a blast raising it. I love him. So, you know, good design. Good stuff. I like it. All right, next up is Momo. Momo's just a squirrel. It's literally just a squirrel or a chipmunk carrying a nut. There's not a whole lot happening in this design. I kind of feel like they could have gotten a little more creative with it. I think part of the downfall of this design is the fact that they made the hands and paws really, really small. Like, I think if they actually made them larger, they could have done something. Like, maybe add elements of a cat or a mole. Like, It has the plush doll problem. It's too generic. Next up is Monol. And Monol is a C design. Monol is flat, but Monol is deep. His biggest problem, he falls asleep. And now you're reminded that the unlock your disk wrap was a real thing that actually happened. Monol is a lot like disk, though most people are exposed to Monol first. It's a stupid idea made clever with a lot of little touches. Especially like the weird like polygonal face that bulges out of it saves this from being some kind of dumb meme. There's enough personality in a Monol that you know if you've raised one that it's not like Mew, where there's just, oh, it's a plush, it's just a slab. It's not just a slab. And I think that's what makes it kind of compelling. Next up is Naga. And you know what? I'm a Snek S-rank design. It's actually very true to its mythological counterpart. It's a big humanoid snake. But here's where what Naga does that Jitan, Jaitan fails at is the fact that its purple motif complements it nicely. Naga is ferocious. Naga is evil. Naga's base nature is cruelty. So they use that purple color scheming contrasted against a lighter purple, and you have this really cool design. Like there's a strong emphasis on the fins and the claws and the very serpentine head. Naga is just a good design. I like Nagas a lot. And, you know what, I haven't raised that many. I talked about this back when I did Monster Rancher 1's Let's Play on the channel. But you'd think I would have raised them more, but Nagas were more Cog's thing than mine. But honestly, they're great monsters. Next up is Niton. And Niton, B rank. Niton takes a very simple concept from nature, adds a little bit of cute anime appeal, and makes a terrifying little tendril snail thing out of it. And honestly, I think it totally works. Again, same principle as hair. You know, this little guy is super annoying to fight because of these tentacles, and I think that makes him very memorable as a result. Next up is Octopi, and Octopi is only saved from the lowest tier by not being Gitan. Whatever. It's orange. It's literally one color. It's solid, monochrome color scheme. It has these big generic Animu eyes. It has the weird, like, octopus mouth. It's also a dog, inexplicably. Honestly, they could have taken some of the design elements from Mogi and made a much more interesting design. Like, what if the ears were a different color from the rest of the body, or the feet, or like have the face have different expressions depending on subbreed, or the little like antenna thing on its head. It could be so many more different things. Instead, what you have is a very generic, cute design, more at home in Pokemon than Monster Rancher. Next up is Agyo. And Agyo has a simple design done well. A rank. Agyo takes the basic shape of a fish or a dolphin, and then they add some fantasy appeal. You have the curls, you have the billowing heart-shaped head fin feeler thingy. Agyo is very striking. It has a strong, pink and green and yellow. Its eyes are blue. It has a water motif, so blue complements the stark pink coloration. Agyos are really cool, and I would argue maybe one of the most underrated monsters in the franchise. Next up is Jack and the Cho, and Jack and the Cho sucks. This little penguin abomination is almost certainly a Lagoon design. It looks like something that Kira Toriyama came up with in a fever dream. Next up is Phoenix. Now, it might surprise you, but Phoenix is not going to go all that high. Phoenix is a good design, but it's just the Phoenix. It's just the Great Firebird. And on its face, that is cool. I'm not taking that from it. Jill is just Bigfoot. It is itself a good design, but, like, it didn't really start getting interesting subtypes till Line Monster Farm started giving it to them. In fact, the Phoenix Undine hybridization is probably the coolest looking a Phoenix has ever been. It's kind of hard to otherwise really explain it. Like, Phoenix is super powerful. It's unambiguously one of the god tier monsters in Monster Rancher 2. It's always good in every game it shows up in. It's a great monster in Monster Rancher Advance 2 as well. But it's just a Fireburb. That's really just all it kind of has going for it. I feel like maybe with a few more touches, like I like how the tail feathers are kind of like chain links together. Good touch. You could do more with it, though. Next up is Peroro. Peroro is a good design. B rank. Peroro is, I think, supposed to be modeled off clowns and jesters, so it has like this kind of white and cyan thing going on that I think works. I don't really get why they gave it the weird, like, black mage eyes in the mouth. Like, maybe they wanted it to look a little disconcerting, or maybe it's supposed to be based off real-life animals that use, like, eye spots to throw off predators. I don't know, like, I kind of like it. It's not amazing, but I like it. It certainly is distinct. I'm not sure if I'd consider it a Monster Rancher design, but it's not terrible either. Next up is Pixie, who was the original waifu monster. And I will say, my opinion on Pixie shifts depending on which game you're talking about. I think she'd average out at the B rank, because honestly, her PS1 incarnation is objectively the best. In Monster Rancher 3, she just looks like a little 5-year-old girl, and it just made it very uncomfortable to have pixies in that game. 4 and Evo, like, kinda, sorta tried to marry the two designs, and it kinda worked, and Line Monster Farm did a decent job updating her design. And, you know what, like, I think it's, like, yeah, it's just a red-headed waifu with wings and a tail, and you guys are correct, maybe she belongs in C rank, but Pixie is iconic. She has had such a huge part in the Monster Rancher mythos, between the games and the anime's influence. It's kind of hard to deny her rightful place in the B rank. Next up is Plant. Plant is a simple design done well. I think I was like trying to put him... There we go. Plant takes a very simple notion. In fact, it's literally just a plant. But again, they add that fantasy appeal. It does a really good job making the monster look really neat. Even if some of its subbreeds are a little horrifying. Usaba springs to mind. And I got the Plant Pixie in Line Monster Farm, and it adds like painted on unblinking Animu eyes, and it's actually really creepy looking. But overall, good design. Next up is Rhino Roller. Rhino Roller is one that I've kind of changed my thoughts on a few times over the years. B rank. My rationale here is it's a fun fantasy monster. Rhino Roller, it's a weird design. It kind of has this, like, it's halfway between a Lesion and whatever one of those weird, like, lagoon rhino elephant monsters supposed to be. But honestly, it's a neat idea. It's like it's this big hippo thing that kind of rides on this tire that just somehow spins, despite how that kind of doesn't make any sense. It's a neat design. I like it. Raiden's a solid B. He's basically just a big bird man. If you played any of the bird races, like the Kinku or the Aarakocra in D&D, it's basically just that. They have this kung fu thing going on, and their attacks are pretty cool, and honestly, a lot of their subbreeds are really cool, too. So, I don't know, there's something to be said for the design, but it kind of suffers some of the same failings as other B-rank monsters, where there is creativity, but maybe there should have been more? It's hard to say. Next up is Ripper, and Ripper is awesome. Ripper is an S-rank design, hands down. It takes a lot of the things that makes Naga fierce, kind of makes it sleek, makes it very speedy looking. It kind of has elements from like a mongoose or a weasel or a ferret. And it gives it a very large, striking tail and the contrast between the white part of his body and the purple part of its body. It's a fun monster to raise, too. I actually love raising them in Monster Rancher 4. Again, much like Modillo, really deserved more love than it got. This is just a Digimon. I don't know what it is or what it's supposed to be. It's literally just a Digimon. This thing is also literally just a Digimon. It looks like it's just a Zoom, but like more over designed. This looks to be some kind of Phoenix variant. I don't know what to make of it. It's just a bird. Anyway, Suezo, the original mascot of Monster Rancher, is indeed an A rank design. So you know Suezo on sight, and you know what he represents. Suezo is a striking monster. It's kind of weird, it's kind of scary, it's kind of unnerving, and it's kind of funny all at the same time. A couple people have mentioned how like each mainline installment seems to try to put forth a new mascot monster, but Suezo will always be the mascot, and I think there's solid reasons why. He has this, sharp yellow design. In Monster Rancher 1, like infant Suezos even have these weird head finny things that I actually thought were really interesting visual storytelling elements. They don't really do that anymore, but honestly, Suezo is just too cool to not be series mascot. Next up is Suzerain, and you might be like, oh, Snek's gonna hate it because it's generic. No, A rank. Suzerain is cute in a good and engaging way. Suzerain has kind of like that generic anime face, but then they take the idea of it being a bell and everything. Its sleeves, its body, its head, it's all a different type of bell, a different shape of bell. And I think that works really, really strongly to its sound motif. You may not know Mogi's sound motif looking at him, but you'll know it when you look at a Suzerain. I just think they're really interesting, and again, I think they're maybe a bit a bit overlooked and underestimated. They're actually pretty good monsters too. I've always enjoyed raising them, and we'll definitely get around to Suzerain at some point. This looks like some kind of Dragon Zan hybrid, but it's definitely not a normal monster. Next up is Tiger, and Tiger S rank design. Tiger is a fantastic design because it's simple, but it's striking. The sharp royal blue matched with the white works in most designs, and then you complement it by giving it horns. It looks like some kind of huge wolf creature, but with a lion's mane and a bushy tail. It has kind of this Arctic motif to it. It's too cool to just not love how it's designed. This is why Tiger subtypes universally are some of the best in the franchise. S rank. Next up is Undine. And I will fully admit I'm biased. S rank. Undines are beautiful monsters. They have this kind of Hellenic toga thing going on in their design. They're like part mermaid, part water spirit, and they have this somewhat humanoid but ever so otherworldly quality to them. They are basically to water and ice what Pixie is to fire and lightning. And maybe some people out there will argue that maybe it's unfair that I put Pixie so much lower than Undine. I don't care. Undine's one of my favorite monsters. She's a fantastic design, undisputed queen of Monster Rancher 2, and seriously underloved. And it wasn't really until like Line Monster Farm they finally started getting some variants, like apart from Siren, which was Undine Joker. So S rank. Fight me in the comments. Next up is Worm, and Worm is also S rank. Worm is such a cool design! And I've heard some people speculate that it's based on the Omu from Nazca, the Valley of the Wind, and I don't know, maybe I see a little bit of that in there, but I think Worm has an identity to call its own. Worm is a weird monster. It can be a little bit tricky to raise. It's a little bit odd stat-wise. Its cocooning ability, it does not explain itself at all. You have to kind of stumble into it by accident or have a guide. But it's such a cool design! It has like these weird ant mandibles. It like kind of has the mouth of one of the graboids from Tremors. It has the weird bugging bug eyes and this really stark brown coloration that makes it look like it could just burrow through anything. Just fantastic design elements. Just great monster. Love it, love it, love it. Once you get good at the game, raise a worm, beat the game with the worm. You will not regret it. Next up is Raki, who in the Japanese was actually called Chucky. I'm gonna put Raki in B rank with the understanding that I think Raki itself is a little generic, but its subbreeds are like these weird doll versions of other monster breeds, and I think that's brilliant. I kind of wanted to see it come back. Raki has a lot of appeal as an evil monster. It has that unambiguously mischievous / lethal motif to it. And honestly, I kind of feel like in some ways it didn't get the chance to shine. Because one, it has a bit of an obscure unlock prerequisite, and also just it is a weird monster, but it's weird in such a fascinating way. Xenon. Xenon is an easy A rank for me. The white and gold is always a great look. And it's, I don't know, I think one of probably the most striking of the Egyptian trio. And it's like this huge, intimidating presence. It looks like a god monster. And honestly, I think the only real misstep is I don't remember there being a Xenon Galley hybrid, which, missed opportunity, god-on-god action. Next up is Zan. Zan is a great design, too. It's based on some kind of mechanical cyber ninja, and what's not to love about that? The only thing that really, I think, holds him back is the gray color palette calls out for more. It's a good monster. I like raising Zans. They're strong, they're fast, they have this really cool, lethal, nothing personnel edge to them. They're Joker, but for Naruto nerds. Look, guys, it's Galvantula. Zilla is what would happen if you take Godzilla's Japanese name of, ape, gorilla, whale, literally. And honestly, I think it makes it just a really cool monster design. First off, it looks cool. Second off, it has this presence. It made itself known in the intro in the Monster Rancher 2 opening sequence that I am the biggest monster. It's a whale. How do you go bigger? You can't. Some newcomers of the franchise will have difficulty raising Zilla, but honestly, I think it's worth it. Learn how the monster works. And again, you can raise them in line monster farms, so why not? Go for it. Go nuts. They're just a cool idea, and I think mastering them will take you time, but I think it's worth it. Alright, last guy. Last guy is going to be Zoom. Zoom is a B-rank design. In many ways, it does what Dino failed to do. It has a distinct copyright-friendly design. The head has that kind of sleeked, leaned-back design. The tail's a little more narrow. The claws are more pronounced. The arms are longer. It kind of takes more inspiration from raptors than the T-Rex. And honestly, I think that's to its credit. The Zoom then has a more aerodynamic and very lithe design. It's sleek. I like it a lot. So, this has been the breakdown. Go ahead, soak it all in. Some of these, I don't know, some of these might move around depending on what mood I'm in at the time, and really these are more based on monster design than, say, the mechanical nuance of raising them, or their stats, or competitive viability. I just really like monsters. And honestly, I hope I argued my case well enough that you guys kind of understand where it is I'm coming from. And Gitan / Jaitan / whatever sucks, and I hate it, and I do not regret giving it its own terrible, terrible, terrible tier. You know what? Maybe it shouldn't be by itself. You know what? We can give him some friends. There, it's improved now. Now, you guys can share his special tier of bad. Just bad monster. You're all bad monsters. You're all bad designs. You're all generic, and I wish you'd be cut from the games. And by you, I mean Mochi, because all the rest of you are gone now. Now, I will do one last step. The Monster Farm Lagoon designs are kind of too interesting to not comment on. So I'm going to do a little bit of shuffling real quick, and I'm going to kind of put these guys with my favorites towards the front. I don't know. It's like there's... I don't like the generic cute designs most of the time. I don't. And I guess of the generic cute designs, I guess I like this little penguin guy the most. No, you know what? That one bugs me way more than all the others, and I can't quite put my finger on why. There. You guys are kind of in descending order. You know, let's move the scroll down a little. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. All right. So, this has been a complete waste of everyone's time. Like I said, it's super hot. I've been exhausted this week, and I wanted to do something a little bit different and relatively low impact. So let me know your thoughts down below. Did you think my arguments were sound? Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know what you think. You know, was I harsh? Was I on? Was I maybe too generous in some cases? Let me know. This has been the Hipster Snek, and I will see you guys next time.